The Senate will come to order. Mr. Panetta, please call the roll.
Bridges. Buckner. Coleman. Cook. Quorum. Danielson.
Here.
Donovan. Finberg. Fields. Gardner. Janal. Gonzalez. Hanson. Heisey. Holbert. Hawkes Lewis. Kirkmeyer. Colker. Lee. Liston. Lundeen. Moreno. Patterson. Priola. Rankin. Rodriguez. Scott. Simpson.
Here.
Smallwood. Sonnenberg. Story. Winter. Woodward. Zenzinger. Mr. President.
Here. With 35 present, 0 absent, 0 excused, we have a quorum. Would the good senator from Brighton please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Thank you, Mr. President. In promise that we always will be true to our country, please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Senator Colker, the approval of the journal.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the reading of the Journal of Monday, March 22nd be dispensed with and that the journal be approved as corrected by the Secretary March 22nd, 2021.
You have heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The motion is adopted. Senate Services.
March 25th, correctly printed Senate Bill 191, 192, 193, 194, and 195, correctly engrossed Senate Bill 59, 77, 81, 99, 130, 144, 157, 172, 179, correctly re-engrossed Senate Bills 117, 153, and 155, correctly revised House Bill 1025, correctly re-revised House Bill 1083, correctly enrolled SJR 006.
Committee reports.
March 22nd, Committee on Health and Human Services. After consideration of the merits, the committee recommends the following. Senate Bill 158 be amended as follows, and the so amended be referred to the Committee on Appropriations with favorable recommendation. March 22nd, Committee on Health and Human Services. After consideration of the merits, the committee recommends the following. Senate Bill 139 be amended as follows, and the so amended be referred to the Committee of the Whole with favorable recommendation, with recommendation to be placed on the consent calendar. March 22nd, Committee on Health and Human Services. After consideration of the merits, the committee recommends the following. Senate Bill 009 be referred favorably to the Committee on Appropriations. March 22nd, Committee on Health and Human Services. After consideration of the merits, the committee recommends the following. Senate Bill 147 be referred to the Committee of the Whole with favorable recommendations. March 22nd, Committee on Business, Labor, and Technology. After consideration of the merits, the committee recommends the following. Senate Bill 95 be amended as follows. So amended be referred to the Committee on Appropriations with favorable recommendation. March 22nd, Committee on Business, Labor, and Technology. After consideration of the merits, the committee recommends the following. Senate Bill 35 be amended as follows, and so amended be referred to the Committee on Appropriations with favorable recommendation. March 22nd, Committee on Business, Labor, and Technology. After consideration of the merits, the committee recommends the following. Senate Bill 180 be amended as follows, and so amended be referred to the Committee on Finance with favorable recommendation. March 22nd, Committee on Business, Labor, and Technology. After consideration of the merits, the committee recommends the following. Senate Bill 86 be postponed indefinitely. March 22nd, Committee on Finance. After consideration of the merits, the committee recommends the following. Senate Bill 178 be referred favorably to the Committee on Appropriations. March 22nd, Committee on Finance. After consideration of the merits, the committee recommends the following. Senate Bill 148 be amended as follows. So amended be referred to the Committee on Appropriations with favorable recommendation. March 22nd, Committee on Finance. After consideration of the merits, the committee recommends the following. House Bill 1126 be referred to the Committee of the Whole with favorable recommendation, and with a recommendation to be placed on the consent calendar.
Third reading of bills, consent calendar. Will the clerk please read all the bills listed on the consent calendar?
Senate Bill 81 by Senators Colker and Representatives Michelson and Janae concerning procedural measures to prevent the misuse of the Safe to Tell program. Senate Bill 99 by Senators Danielson and Representatives Ortiz concerning the continuation of the assistance program for disability benefits under the Laura Hershey Disability Support Act and in connection therewith implementing a recommendation contained in the 2020 Sunset Report by the Department of Regulatory Agencies. Senate Bill 157 by Senators Priola and Representatives Michelson, Janae, and Baisley concerning an increase in the aggregate amount of qualified charter schools bonds for which the General Assembly may appropriately may appropriate money to restore debt service reserve requirements. Senate Bill 130 by Senators Holbert and Pedersen and Representatives Van Winkle and Byrd concerning authorizations for local governments to exempt business personal property from taxation.
Mr. Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move for the passage of all the bills on the third reading of bills consent calendar, which includes Senate Bills 81, 99, 157, and 130.
Is there any discussion on any of the bills? Seeing none, the motion is the passage of all the bills listed on the third reading of bills consent calendar. Are there any no votes on any of the bills on the third reading consent calendar? With a vote of 35 ayes, 0 noes, 0 absent, 0 excused, Senate Bill 081 is passed. Co-sponsors. Senators Bridges, Danielson, Moreno, Janal, Story, Cook, Gonzalez, Lee, Buckner, Gardner, Hawkes Lewis, Priola. Please add the President. With a vote of 35 ayes, 0 noes, 0 absent, 0 excused, Senate Bill 099 is passed. Co-sponsors, Senators Moreno, Zenzinger, Priola, Woodward, Janal, Pedersen, Winter, Hawkes Lewis, Bridges, Hanson, Kolker, Story, Rankin, Rodriguez, Heisey, Buckner. Please add the President. With a vote of 35 ayes, 0 noes, 0 absent, 0 excused, Senate Bill 157 is passed. Co-sponsors, Senators Lundin, the Minority Leader, Heisey, Zenzinger, Rankin, Smallwood, Kirkmeyer, Woodward, Liston, Gardner, Cook, Bridges. With a vote of 35 ayes, 0 noes, 0 absent, 0 excused, Senate Bill 130 is passed. Co-sponsors, Senators Cook, Simpson, Gonzalez, Sonnenberg, Heisey, Lundin, Gardner, Winter, Rankin, Danielson, Scott, Liston, Kirkmeyer, Zenzinger, Priola, Woodward, Quorum, Smallwood. Please add the President. Third reading of bills. Third reading of bills, final passage. Will the clerk please read the title to Senate Bill 179?
Senate Bill 179 by Senators Zenzinger and Kirkmeyer and Representative Kip and Lynch concerning the composition of the Colorado Opportunity Scholarship Initiative Advisory Board.
Senator Kirkmeyer.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move on third reading, Senate Bill 179.
Is there any discussion? Seeing none, the motion before the body is the passage of Senate Bill 179 on third reading and final passage. Are there any no votes? Senators Smallwood, Woodward, Lundin. With a vote of 32 ayes, 3 no votes, 0 absent, 0 excused, Senate Bill 179 is passed. Co-sponsors, Senators Moreno, Janal, Hawkes Lewis, Buckner, Story, Hanson, will the clerk please read the title to House Bill 1025?
House Bill 1025 by Representative Arndt and Senators Janot concerning clarification under the Colorado Open Meetings Law of the requirements governing communication by electronic mail that does not relate to the substance of public business.
Senator Janot.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move House Bill 1025 on third reading and final passage.
Is there any discussion? Seeing none, the motion before the body is the passage of House Bill 1025 on third reading and final passage. Are there any no votes? Senators Sonnenberg, with a vote of 34 ayes, 1 no vote, 0 absent, and 0 excused, House Bill 1025 is passed. Co-sponsors. Senator Story. Will the clerk please read the title to Senate Bill 144?
Senate Bill 144 by Senators Garcia and Cook and Representatives Titone and Van Bieber concerning the continuation of the Homeland Security All Hazards Senior Advisory Committee and in connection therewith implementing the recommendation contained in the 2020 Census Report by the Department of Regulatory Agencies.
Senator Cook.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move Senate Bill 144 on third reading and final passage and ask for an aye vote.
Is there any discussion? Seeing none, the motion before the body is the passage of Senate Bill 144 on third reading and final passage. Are there any no votes? With a vote of 35 ayes, 0 noes, 0 absent, and 0 excused, Senate Bill 144 is passed. Co-sponsors. Senators Janot, Danielson, will the clerk please read the title to Senate Bill 172?
Senate Bill 172 by Senators Danielson and Garcia and Representatives Gonzalez, Gutierrez, and Ortiz concerning creation of a fund to assist in increasing the amounts paid to persons employed by local education providers.
Senator Danielson.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move Senate Bill 172 on third reading and final passage.
Is there any discussion? Seeing none, the motion before the body is the passage of Senate Bill 172 on third reading and final passage. Are there any no votes? Senators Cook, Lundin, the Minority Leader, Heisey, Simpson, Scott, Gardner, Smallwood, Kirkmeyer, Liston, Rankin, Sonnenberg. With 23 ayes, 12 no votes, 0 absent, and 0 excused, Senate Bill 172 is passed. Co-sponsors. Senators Winter, Janal, Halkis Lewis, Pedersen, Buckner, Kolker, Bridges, Hanson, Gonzalez, Story, Moreno, Rodriguez, Donovan. Will the clerk please read the title to Senate Bill 059?
Senate Bill 59 by Senators Lee and Gardner, Representative Gonzalez, Gutierrez, and Geithner concerning the reorganization of the Juvenile Justice Code in Article 2 of Title 19 Colorado Revised Statutes by the Colorado Juvenile Justice and Delinquency Prevention Council as authorized by House Joint Resolution 18-1013.
Senator Lee.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move for passage of Senate Bill 59 on third reading and final passage.
Is there any discussion? Seeing none, the motion before the body is the passage of Senate Bill 059 on third reading and final passage. Are there any no votes? With a vote of 35 ayes, 0 noes, 0 absent, and 0 excused, Senate Bill 059 is passed. Co-sponsors. Senators Cook, Moreno, Gonzalez, the Minority Leader, Buckner. Will the clerk please read the title to Senate Bill 077?
Senate Bill 77 by Senators Gonzalez and Representatives Benavides and Kipp concerning the elimination of verification of an individual's lawful presence in the United States as a requirement for individual credentialing.
Senator Gonzalez.
Gracias, Presidente. I move Senate Bill 77 on third reading and final passage and ask for an aye vote.
Is there any discussion? Seeing none, the motion before the body is the passage of Senate Bill 077 on third reading and final passage. Are there any no votes? Senators Smallwood, Sonnenberg, Woodward, Cook, Scott, the Minority Leader, Lundin, Gardner, Liston, Heisey, Kirkmeyer. With 24 aye votes, 11 no votes, 0 absent, 0 excused, Senate Bill 077 is passed. Co-sponsors, Senators Moreno, Hansen, Hawkes Lewis, the Majority Leader, Bridges, Rodriguez, Buckner, Lee, Pedersen, Janal, Winter, Story, Colker, Donovan. Please add the president. Mr. Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that we lay over the remainder of the bills on the calendar, which includes the general order second reading of bills consent calendar and general order second reading of bills until tomorrow, March 24th.
You have heard the motion. All those in favor, the motion is that we lay over the balance of the remaining calendar, which would include general order second reading of bills and consent, and also general order second reading of bills. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes have it, and that motion is adopted. Mr. Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. I request a moment of personal privilege.
Granted.
This is something that I think we all hope we don't have to discuss on the floor. But we all know kind of in the back of our heads that it might be inevitable. And we see it happen in other communities. And then one day it happens in your own. The first victim in this shooting yesterday in Boulder was the first name that was released yesterday. Officer Eric Talley was a police officer at the Boulder Police Department for many years. He has 7 kids. His youngest is 7 years old. I actually vaguely remembered or recognized his name when his name came out. Now, I didn't know Officer Talley, but there was one of those kind of silly feel-good stories in the local paper a few years ago that I remember, and it was a slow news day, I imagine. And there was I don't know if it was above the fold, but it was a story that got sent around, and it was something everybody sort of read and got a chuckle at and kind of warmed their heart for a moment. And it was because there was a family of ducklings that were stuck in a drainage ditch or a sewer pipe or something like that. Probably was on the police scanner and some reporter was listening, went out and joined Officer Talley as he waded into waist-deep water to save these little ducklings. That man received a phone call or received a call from dispatch to go to the King Soopers because of reports of an armed gunman inside the store. And he rushed. Seems like he didn't think twice about it. And very quickly, his life was ended. Inside that store, with the reports of a potentially coming small snowstorm, I think several folks were in there getting some last-minute things for the evening. They were just doing their grocery shopping, just getting some bread, buying a gallon of milk. Several people were there to do what they had been waiting to do for months, to be able to return their life to normal by going to the pharmacy to get their COVID-19 vaccine. One individual is waiting in line for their vaccine, and the reports are that she was shot and killed. And there were 2 middle school girls waiting in line right behind her with a family member, and they witnessed this. This was the deadliest shooting in Boulder County history. Probably happened in the course of a few minutes, and it was over. Of course, the scene and the apprehension and the chaos took much longer, but these people's lives were taken seemingly in an instant. This last year, we all have had our lives turned upside down. Probably a million different times. With each new health order, each new report of the virus and what it was doing in our communities, and what it meant for our work and our lives in the short term, maybe the long term. And I think we all worried about our own safety and the safety of our families so many different times over those last year. The one thing, though, that, and I'm sure this has already crossed everyone's mind and been discussed, but the one thing that faded away over this past year, I think in a lot of ways we didn't even notice that it faded away. We didn't have a lot of what we call mass shootings in the newspapers anymore. Partially because people were staying home, congregating in areas wasn't occurring as much. Schools were not in session. In just the last couple of weeks, I don't know about all of you, but to me it started to feel like we were getting back to normal, little by little. And obviously, that's not the case for everybody. Many people were still very much feeling the impacts of this virus, whether from the health perspective or the economic perspective. But for me, I started feeling a little bit of comfort. I started feeling a little bit more normal. My wife and I and our daughter got breakfast the other day, sat outside at a local cafe, and it just felt like the best feeling in the world. But with that, sadly, it seems that we also have the normal coming back, which includes in this country, on a regular basis, a Twitter alert or a news alert, or like I got yesterday, a reverse 911 call telling me to shelter in place because my home is merely 2 blocks from where there was a SWAT team. A lot of times we keep talking about over this last year, we talk about the new normal. Is this the new normal? It's not new. This is the old normal that we've seen in Atlanta and yesterday in Boulder. And that's what we have to change. We can't just say, I guess this is the new normal. We can't, for so many reasons, we can't just go back to normal. And I think many of us forgot what normal felt like. And over this last year, we are longing for normalcy. But normal includes devastating events that happen in communities all over this country regularly. That can't be the normal that we return to. And I'm not going to stand here and say, therefore, we should do X, Y, and Z. And then we will change the normal. We won't return back to these devastating events. I am not going to stand here and say that a certain policy would have saved the lives of these 10 individuals. That doesn't mean we shouldn't try or that we shouldn't have the conversation as leaders of our state. Boulder, I know, is poked fun at and is oftentimes the boogeyman. But last night, so many families went to bed in so much pain. And they're waking up this morning, if they even went to sleep, in so much pain. As we have our conversations here in this chamber, let's just remember, every time we have a debate, no matter how heated it gets, that the people that our policies impact, the conversations that we are having on their behalf, these are grandparents. A 25-year-old who was a checkout clerk, an officer with 7 children. These are my constituents. I don't think it's too soon to talk about policy or to talk about politics. Again, I'm not going to stand here and say I know the answers. But that can't be the response, that, too soon. Because of, unfortunately, just yet another example, it's too late. It's so overdue.
Mr. Majority Leader, would you like to be extended to your next 10 minutes?
Yes, thank you.
Proceed, please.
For these 10 individuals, it's too late. And again, I'm not going to say I know the answers. But that doesn't mean that there aren't answers. It doesn't mean we shouldn't seek for answers. It doesn't mean we shouldn't strive towards changing this normal to be something where people don't go to school in fear, where people don't pick up their groceries in fear. We often say that there are thoughts and prayers after events like this, and probably folks on my side of the aisle say that's not enough. We don't need your thoughts and prayers. And it's a saying, it's something we say because sometimes we feel funny when things like this happen. We don't know what to say, it gets awkward, and it's what comes to mind. It's what people say to find some solace and some comfort for people in a moment of pain. But what I will say, members, is that I'm not a religious person, but I imagine the reason why you pray is because it's about something that's out of your control. It's about something that's bigger than you, than us. You pray because you don't know the answers. You pray because you need guidance. I don't think we need to pray when it comes to this issue. We need to be leaders, and we need to have conversations about what we can do to keep people safe. And I was talking to a colleague this morning, and that colleague said, I'm going to start carrying my concealed weapon maybe a little more often now. And I think that's fine. That's a fine response. I think people should be able to do what they feel is going to make them safe. My community a couple of years ago passed a policy to make them feel safe. Not safe, I guess, but safer. And that was that they said in city boundaries, you can't have an assault weapon. Obviously, it was political. Obviously, it was a hot debate, and tensions were high, and we could talk all day about if that is a policy that would even impact the issue. But it was passed after a long conversation as a community. And just a matter of days ago, a court overturned it. Didn't say it was unconstitutional, said it was preempted by state law. I hope in these next few weeks, the rest of this session, that we allow for a conversation about what makes different communities feel safer so that they can take matters into their own hands when appropriate, just like we all think about what's going to make us safe and we take actions. I think communities should be able to have that conversation community by community as well. And I look forward to having a mature and reasoned discussion with colleagues about what that could look like. Because this is a community that wanted to just do something to make people feel a little bit safer. And I think they should have that right. Mr. President, I want to read the names of those who we lost in my community last night. And I want to ask for a moment of silence and for the chimes to ring. But I did hesitate to make that request because it feels a little too routine. So I don't want to do it in place of having difficult conversations. I don't want to do it because it's too soon to have the other discussions around this impact and what we could do differently moving forward. I don't want to do it because it's going to provide solace for the families, because I don't think it will. But I want to do it for the memories of the victims. For us all to take just a moment to slow down and say together, in our own way that we need to say it to ourselves, in our own minds, silently, that their memory may be a blessing for all that knew them. Denny Strong is 20 years old. Nevin Staninsky, 23. Ricky Olds, 25. Trelona Barkowiak, 49. Suzanne Fountain, 59. Terry Leiker, 51. Officer Eric Talley, 51. Kevin Mahoney, 61. Lynn Murray, 62. And Jody Waters, 65. Mr. President, I request a moment of silence for these individuals so that their memory may be a blessing to all.
The Senate will observe a moment of silence, and the Senate chimes will ring. Mr. Minority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. Request a moment of personal privilege.
Granted.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. Majority Leader, thank you for those words, for your strength in representing the community, the district that you represent. It is an unfortunate thing that you and I share something in common. The STEM shooting, of course, was in the district that I represent. Yesterday, we had a wonderful committee hearing in Health and Human Services. The Assistant Majority Leader and I are a sponsor of a bill, and we went to her committee, Health and Human Services, and we had the honor of hearing witness testimony from one and only John Elway. We were offering the COVID high five, distancing and elbow bumps. It was the best of times. I came downstairs from the committee hearing room and dropped my bill folder on that filing cabinet right there and went out the door. And as I went out the door, the Majority Leader was coming across the front of the Senate. And I made a comment, if you want to pass a bill, you just have John Elway testify in favor of it. And he said, yeah, I saw that, but I could see that he was distracted. He was in pain. I didn't know why. He turned right and went toward the president's office, and I went left toward the minority office, and I walked in there. Our communications director mentioned something that had happened in Boulder. What? Well, there was a shooting. Where? At a King Soopers. What? And it was the worst of times. And members, thank you for standing, but I don't expect you to honor me. We certainly honor the Majority Leader and those lost in the community that he represents. But I was thinking about what to say this morning. And these are not my words. I want to give credit to Leonard Pitts, Jr., who I think said it best after the 9/11 attacks. Mr. Pitts wrote in the Miami Herald, "It's my job to have something to say." I guess it's my job to have something to say. "They pay me to provide words that help make sense of that which troubles the American soul. But in this moment of airless shock, when hot tears sting disbelieving eyes, the only thing I can find to say, the only words that seem to fit, must be addressed to the unknown author of this suffering. You monster, you beast, you unspeakable bastard. What lesson did you hope to teach us by your coward's attack on our World Trade Center, our Pentagon on us? What was it that you hoped we would learn? Whatever it was, please know that you failed. Did you want us to respect your cause? You just damned your cause. Did you want to make us fear? You just steeled our resolve. Did you want to tear us apart? You just brought us together." This morning, during the press conference, I heard a name uttered. I hope to not remember that name. I hope to not speak that name. And I think one lesson that we have learned as legislators, as a society, is do not give him the recognition. Do not give him the fame. To the police chief, to all of the law enforcement, to the district attorney, to the federal law enforcement and judicial branch personnel who are investigating, who will prosecute, thank you for your hard work. For the family of Officer Eric Talley. Oh, the speeches we will have here in the well, where we will remember Eric Talley as we have Kendall Castillo. I've mentioned here before that President Lincoln mentioned at Gettysburg that words cannot add or detract from the sacrifice that people like Officer Talley have made for we, the people. We can't add or detract from that with mere words here in the well, but we will try. To that man who sits in the hospital and soon will transfer to the Boulder County Jail, I suppose we as a society are craving, anxious to know what the motive was. Why? Now we know who, but why? It's in our nature. Who, what, where, when, why, how. I don't want to know his name, and the why doesn't matter. It was wrong. It was terror brought upon all of us. Mr. Majority Leader, I apologize for not knowing about the pain that you and your community were going through when I made the comment, and I stand with you and the people of your district, the people of my district who've suffered enough. I don't know what the answers are, but I know for sure it isn't giving this monster credit. God bless you and all the people of Boulder County, all the people of Colorado, and of this nation. Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator Hawkins Lewis.
Mr. President, I request a moment of personal privilege.
Granted.
Thank you. Colleagues, I'm not used to doing this. I really don't come down to the well very often. Those of you that I worked with in the House know that about me, but I have to this morning. Our Boulder community is grieving. We're in a state of shock. Innocent lives were cut brutally short, and their families will never be the same. I've been working the last few weeks with Chief Maris Harold on a variety of issues, and I've gotten to know her a little bit, and watching her talk about her police department and Officer Eric Talley is something that I'll never forget. I served on a board very briefly, a nonprofit board with Jody Waters. We're the same age. So this is a moment that is it's not going to be forgotten anytime soon in our Boulder community. I've gotten so many calls and texts, and late last night, I was contacted by a woman who I'd never met before. She's a constituent, Shannon Mahali. Shannon was an 8th grader who lived 20 minutes from Columbine High School in 1999 when 12 students and 1 teacher were killed. And Shannon told me she was terrified to go to high school the next year. She was in Arapahoe High, and that, of course, as we know, is the scene of another high school shooting in 2013 where a student was killed. And as we have with our connections in life, Shannon had good friends and family members at STEM school in Highlands Ranch when the shooting happened there, May 2019. And yesterday, a colleague of Shannon's was minutes from being in that grocery store in Boulder, and as they pulled up, they saw someone lying face down in the parking lot. Shannon told me she has preschool-aged children, and she said, "Do you know what preschool-aged children practice these days? They practice drills for sheltering in place. Preschool children have to practice this." My wife is a hospice nurse, and she works for one of the largest hospice groups in Boulder County, and for a while they couldn't find one of their nurses who was in Boulder trying to take care of a patient.
Complete panic took over her team because they didn't know where their nurse was, because she didn't have her phone with her and they couldn't reach her because she was told to shelter in place. This violence has to stop. This insanity has to stop. When my sister was a teenager, she was working in my father's drugstore, and she had a gun pointed at her face because a man with a gun wanted candy bars. We have colleagues in both chambers who have been affected by gun violence. As our majority leader mentioned, my colleague from Boulder County, yesterday in the King Soopers, there were 2 young sisters that went with their grandfather to get his COVID vaccine. They were very excited. He wanted them to see what they should do and what was the right thing to do. I've been in that store dozens and dozens and dozens of times. It's a community-based store. It's a hangout. It's where you go to grab things quickly. It's where you go to see your neighbors and your friends and family. And those little girls saw a person get shot right in front of them. And they had to run for their lives upstairs and wait in a closet for an hour until the police could escort them out. Is this really what we want Colorado to be? Is this really what we want in the lives of our citizens? Coloradans are begging us to do something. I have so many folks that are begging us to do something. Can we really sit back and let another generation of Colorado kids like Shannon Mahaly be afraid to go to school or to the movies or to the grocery store? We are the leaders that can make a difference. We have other gun sense measures coming before this chamber, and I believe these measures will make our communities safe. My colleagues in this chamber, we need to come together. We need to have a change of heart, a change of direction. The rest of the majority of our state are telling us to do something and telling us to act. And so I ask you to do it for people like Shannon Mahaly, who are raising the next generation of Coloradans and want them to be safe. This is our time to act. Thank you.
Senator Cook.
Thank you, Mr. President. I ask for a moment of personal privilege.
Granted.
Thank you, Mr. President. And I want to thank the Majority Leader for those thoughtful words, heartfelt words. It's hard to know what to say. I agree with you on that. And any comfort that we can give, we're here for you. But I want to thank and praise the Boulder Police Department for what they did. But not just Boulder, all of law enforcement that responded, all of law enforcement that every day puts their life on the line. But I also want to thank Officer Talley for his service to his community. When the shots fired, it sounds like he did not hesitate. He went right in because he took an oath to uphold the Constitution. He took an oath to protect his community, and that's exactly what he did. And that's what every law enforcement officer does in this state. They respond to danger. When the bullets fly, when people are trying to run out, they run in. And that's exactly what Officer Talley did. And that's what all the other officers did that also responded, because they knew one of their brothers was shot, probably killed. But they didn't hesitate. They still went. The professionalism, the little bit that I saw, was outstanding. The restraint that I saw from law enforcement. When a brother officer dies, it sends shockwaves through the entire law enforcement community. But the Boulder Police Department and whoever else was on scene showed great restraint. They captured this man alive so that he can stand trial. There was no retribution to him. There was no callousness towards him. They made an arrest, put him in an ambulance, took him to the hospital. That's what law enforcement does. And I ask that we all be patient, that we uplift and uphold the Boulder Police Department during this time, because nobody knows what they're going through. Well, I know what they're going through because I lost a deputy on my watch. But law enforcement knows what they're going through, and we can only imagine what they're going through. So be patient with them. Let's not criticize them. We all want to know what's happening. We all want information. I want information. I want to know what happened. But there's a major crime scene that's still working, would be working for days, 3, 4 days, maybe even 5 days, processing that scene. Those people will probably be on their hands and knees, scouring King Soopers in the parking lot, looking for all the evidence possible, which could mean hairs, fibers. So let's be patient with them. They know what they're doing. They're a professional organization. If we're not getting the information right away, let's not be critical. Let's just know that they're doing the right thing. They're acting like professionals. They're doing the right thing. So this monster, I believe the minority leader called him, can get a fair trial. So again, I just want to thank Boulder, all the officers, the federal agents, the local law enforcement that responded to the scene, because we are one community. It's not just Boulder. It's the whole Front Range, the whole state. It's one community, and so law enforcement throughout that state, throughout this state, responded. Because again, they all took that oath to protect life. Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator Fields.
Good morning, Mr. President and colleagues. I'd like to request a moment of personal privilege.
Granted.
You just don't know. We never know when our time is up. We just don't know. Where are we safe in our community? Are we safe in our churches? No. We've had mass shootings in our churches and in our synagogues and other places. Where are we safe? Are we safe at a movie theater? No. In Aurora, we saw what happened. People were just going there to be entertained. Where are we safe? Can you go to the mall? Sometimes you can get shot down just at a mall. Where are we safe? From Atlanta to Colorado. We just had a mass shooting in Atlanta at a day spa. People just minding their business. Where are we safe? Are we safe in our schools? Our kids are having to participate in these shooting lockdown drills because you never know when crazy or madness might show up. Where are we safe? Are we safe at a grocery store? I have to confess, I might go to a grocery store every day because I need some milk, some eggs, some bacon, whatever I need. I might stop at the grocery store every single day if I need to. Where are we safe? There's been conversations here about law enforcement. And I have the utmost respect for law enforcement because when you call 911, somebody will show up. You could be having a heart attack. You could be having a car accident. Whatever is going on, if you call 911, someone's going to answer the phone and someone's going to show up to render aid. So when I think about the officer that lost his life at 51 with 7 kids, 7 children. The youngest, I understand, was 7 years old. The oldest was 20. In the line of duty, he shows up to protect life and property. I just want his family to know that his service will never, ever be forgotten. And I'm praying right now that he is resting in peace. I'm a woman of faith, and I will never say that thoughts and prayers are not necessary. Because sometimes you do need to pray. And I pray every single day. Because I know someone's listening. And I believe in the grace of God that something's going to happen when my prayer goes up and the blessings come down. Rest in peace, Officer Talley. All I have for you at this point are my thoughts and prayers. When the Aurora Theater shooting happened, that's all I could provide my community, was to gather together a prayer visual because I didn't know what else to do. It's traumatic when 10 people lose their lives just for being in a grocery store, minding their own business. Our majority leader gave out the names of the 10 victims, but what struck me was their ages. I think I'm older than all of them, but still. 20 years old, 23 years old, 25-year-old, 49 years old, 59 years old, 51 years old, 51, another 51, 61, 62, 65. Minding their own business in the grocery store. And they get shot down and killed. And we still don't understand why. But what we do know is that homicide happened. So those families are without that loved one forever. Forever. Just think of the officer. His income and his livelihood, his presence in that family is gone forever. Law enforcement. I'm quite sure you saw it like I did. I saw the SWAT team show up. That's why I'm not in favor of defunding the police. Did you see them? They were lined up on top of the roof. They were all over to protect the people that were just in there shopping. Some people might say, well, it was militarized. Well, what do you want them to show up with? I don't know. I was glad to see it. Could have been my mother in there. I don't live in Boulder. You don't have to really live in Boulder. You could be in wherever. But the police are there to provide the resources and the protection and the safety that we need. And I was proud to see them show up in Boulder with the appropriate equipment that they need to respond to an active shooting with the force that they needed. We didn't know if there was one shooter, two shooters, or whatever, but they showed up and they rushed towards the danger in the line of duty because of the oath they take. I have not ever had an aspiration to be in law enforcement or to be a lawyer or a country lawyer. I've never had the aspiration to do that kind of stuff, but people who do it because of their passion for law and order. They do it because they care. I don't know who this guy was, but what I hear from the reports is that he just came in shooting. He was shooting before he even went inside the grocery store, and then he was shooting once he got inside there. What kind of sense does that make? But I want to thank the police response for showing up to protect life and to maintain order when we needed it, because it wasn't making any sense, because it's just not the order of things. We should all be able to go to the movie theater, to go to church, to come here, to go to a playground or a park or whatever you want to go, without feeling like your life is going to be jeopardized because someone has a rifle and who wants to commit homicide or suicide, someone that wants to kill as many people as they can in a short matter of time. It's just not right.
Would the good senator from Arapahoe County like to be extended to your next 10 minutes?
Mr. President, I think I'm done. Thank you.
Senator Gonzalez.
Gracias, Presidente. I request a moment of personal privilege.
Granted.
I too am filled with rage and grief and heartbreak. Sometimes there are no words. And so when I find myself unable to speak, I turn to poetry. I offer these words from our Colorado Poet Laureate, Bobby Lefebvre, a Northsider, a constituent, and a friend. And I offer my solace and solidarity with the families of the 10 victims of the Boulder shooting who lost their lives yesterday. 1, the hand tells the gun, I am boss. The gun answers the hand, aim wisely. The gun tells the bullet, prepare yourself. The bullet answers the gun, I'm afraid. The bullet tells the target, I'm sorry. The target answers the bullet, I know. The target tells the blood, don't leave me. The blood answers the target, I must. The blood asks society, how much more of me do you want? Society answers the blood. Two, in the distance, prayers ring out. God bless the hand. God bless the gun. God bless the bullet. God bless the target. God bless the blood. God bless the United States of America. I look forward to the debate that we'll have. It's time. Thank you.
Senator Sonderberg.
Thank you, Mr. President. I wasn't going to come down here and talk. And I'm not going to talk about policy. But I felt led to address, and I know the majority leader, what he was trying to say with regard to thoughts and prayers. But I want people to understand that I think prayers are more important now than ever. For those of us that are Christians, that believe that a prayer is that communication I have with God the Father Almighty, where I can ask and beg and plead and even get angry with, but I can ask for those loving arms to be wrapped around family, be wrapped around those that are involved, those that have been impacted, and I know that God will do that. I think that's part of the problem we have seen over the last several decades. Taking prayer out of the school, would it make a difference? I don't know, but it sure couldn't hurt. I remember going to commencement exercises where they couldn't pray at the beginning of a commencement exercise. Would it make a difference? Couldn't hurt. And as we mourn the loss of what happened yesterday, and as we look at how our children are growing up without faith, without God in their lives, and how that creates sometimes mental instability. And don't get me wrong, there are Christians that have the same issues that we saw yesterday. But as we talk about these mental issues and look for answers, the only place I know to get those answers are through prayer. And the majority leader alluded to that. Why do you pray? I pray for those answers. I pray for those communications. But when we talk about the mental instability of what's going on, as we remove prayer from schools and public functions, but allow video games to desensitize death, this isn't an isolated incident. And as we mourn this, a 7th grader in Otis took their life yesterday. The inability for us to address those concerns that, from my perspective, only God can address. Only faith can address. And only the ability for us to pray for and with those that I love so dearly, and that includes each and every one of you. You know, I can't even put our Bible study stuff on your desks anymore. The Bible study we have every Tuesday morning, I can't place those on your desk anymore. When I would argue we need probably them more often, if there's just one word of encouragement, one word of hope, colleagues, friends that I love, I will continue to pray for you. I'll continue to pray for those families. And I want us to remember that there is an answer if we just look for it. Mr. President, I'm sorry to preach, but I think it's a message that needs said, that God needs to be back in our lives. And I will pray that we will seek His guidance and wisdom as we sort through how to solve these problems. Mr. President, thank you.
Announcements. Senator Danielson.
Thank you, Mr. President, and I'm sorry to have to make an announcement on this somber day, but I just wanted to let folks know that I've been excused for Wednesday and Thursday for medical reasons and will be absent, or will be excused. Thank you.
The good senator from Wheat Ridge has consulted with the majority leader and the minority leader and will be marked accordingly excused. Senator Priola.
Thank you, Mr. President. I need to ask to be excused for March 29th, next Monday. Thank you.
The good senator also from Adams County has consulted with the majority leader and the minority leader and will be marked excused for that day. Senator Gonzalez.
Gracias, Presidente. Members of the State Veterans and Military Affairs Committee will be meeting at 2 o'clock in the Old Supreme Court Chamber.
Any further announcements? Mr. Majority Leader. The Senate will stand in a brief recess. Senate will come back to order. Mr. Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the Senate adjourn until 9 a.m. tomorrow, March 24th.
You have heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the motion is adopted. The Senate will stand in adjournment until Wednesday, March 23rd, 2021.